Hey friend, have you ever looked around and realized that the friendships that once felt so close just don't fit anymore? It's not that there was a big fight, there wasn't even a falling out or a dramatic moment you could point to and say, that's when it ended. It's just that life changed. You changed. The conversations that used to flow so easily now feel a little forced, like you're both trying to find common ground that used to just exist. The connection that once brought you so much joy now leaves you feeling drained or even empty. And somewhere deep inside, in the quiet place where you're most honest with yourself, you know it's time to let go. But knowing doesn't make it easier, does it? Today we're talking about something that doesn't get discussed nearly enough. What happens when friendships shift? How to grieve the old ones without guilt, how to make space for new ones without fear, and how to trust that God still weaves purpose through every relationship, even the ones that fade. Because here's what I've learned: sometimes the friendships that don't last are making room for the ones that will. Welcome to Graceful Growth in Midlife. I'm Teresa, and we're talking about faith, health, and purpose at this point in life. And if I'm honest, I'm figuring this out right along with you. This podcast isn't about perfect answers or expert advice. It's not about me telling you I've got it all together, because I definitely don't. This is about real conversations that help us grow one messy, beautiful, imperfect step at a time. So before we dive into today's episode, I want to invite you into something special. This December, which is available now, I'm offering a free companion guide called The Season of Light, Finding Peace, Purpose, and Renewal in God's Presence. What if this year, instead of rushing through the holidays, you paused to prepare your heart? Instead of adding more to your plate, you made space that truly matters. This guide will help you slow down, reflect, and rediscover the wonder of Christ's coming. Not just in December, but in every ordinary moment of your life. See the links below to get your free copy. Okay, so today's topic. This one's tender. This one might hit close to home for some of you. Because no one really talks about how friendships can shift in midlife, do they? We talk about marriages changing. We talk about our kids growing up and relationships evolving there. We even talk about career transitions and identity shifts. But friendships? That's a quiet grief that most of us carry alone. How the people who used to know you best can suddenly feel like strangers. How someone who was once your first call can slowly become someone you haven't spoken to in months. How it's possible to love someone deeply, to have years of history together, and still know that your paths are leading in different directions now. I want you to know something. If you're feeling this right now, you're not alone, and you're not doing anything wrong. Friendship changes are one of the quiet ways God grows us. Not to leave us lonely, though it can feel that way sometimes, but to lead us closer to the people and places that match who we are becoming. So today we're going to talk honestly about this, about seasons of friendship, about when to hold on and when to let go, about grieving well and opening up to new connections, and about the one friend who never drifts, never changes, and never leaves. Before we dive in, I want to remind you that you can find the full written version of this episode on the gracefulgrowth.com on the blog. If something resonates today and you want to come back to it or share it with someone, it's there waiting for you. All right, let's dig into this. Let me start by saying something that might bring you some relief. Just like nature has seasons, so does friendship. Some friends are meant to walk with you for a lifetime. Those are the rare ones, the soul friends who know all your stories and still choose to stay. The ones you can go months without talking to and pick right back up like no time has passed. But others are there for a reason or a season. for a specific chapter that shapes who you are. They serve a purpose, a beautiful, important purpose, but the purpose has a time frame. And when the season ends, it doesn't mean the friendship failed. It means it fulfilled what it was meant to do. The Bible actually shows us this pattern. Even Jesus had circles of friendship. He loved the multitudes. He taught them, fed them, healed them. He walked closely with the 12 disciples, sharing life with them daily, teaching them, preparing them for ministry. And then within those 12, he had 3, Peter, James, and John, who he had brought into his most intimate moments. The Transfiguration, the Garden of Gethsemane, the time when he needed most support. And even within those circles, the relationships weren't all the same. John was the disciple Jesus loved, the one who leaned on his chest at the Last Supper. The relationship was different, closer, more intimate. So if Jesus himself had different levels and seasons of friendship, why do we feel guilty when our friendships shift? Why do we carry shame when a friend who was once close starts to feel distance? Why do we beat ourselves up when we realize that the friendship that sustained us in one season doesn't fit the next? Sometimes God uses friendships to teach us a lesson we couldn't learn alone. Maybe that friend taught you how to laugh again after a hard season. Maybe she modeled faith when yours was weak. Maybe he challenged you to grow in ways no one else could. Those lessons are gifts, and when the lessons are complete, when the season has served its purpose, God sometimes gently releases those friendships. Not because they weren't valuable, but because their purpose was fulfilled. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1 says, "To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven." That includes friendships. There's a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to gather and a time to scatter, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. Some friendships are planted for a lifetime. Others are planted for a season, and both are exactly what they're meant to be. But here's what I know, even when you understand that intellectually, it still hurts. Especially when that person was once part of your daily rhythm. The one you texted first thing in the morning, the one you called during every crisis, the one who knew your whole story. And then suddenly there's silence, or distance, or just a shift that you can't quite name, but you definitely feel. And silence can feel like loss. Distance can feel like rejection, even when it's not. So if you're in that space right now, if you're feeling the ache of a friendship that's changing, I want you to know that ache is valid. The grief is real, and you don't have to pretend it doesn't hurt just because there wasn't a dramatic ending. Sometimes the quietest losses are the ones we feel most deeply. So let's talk about something that I think needs to be named: the grief of friendship endings. When we lose a friend to death, we have rituals. We have funerals and memorial services and socially accepted ways to mourn. People bring meals, they send cards, they acknowledge the loss. But when we lose a friend to distance, to drift, to differences in values or life direction, we don't know how to mourn it. There's no casseroles, no sympathy card, no acknowledgement that something significant has ended. So we downplay it. We tell ourselves, it's no big deal. We brush it off. We just drifted apart. We're both busy. Life happens. But it is a big deal. Because connection matters, shared history matters. Your laughter together, you cried together, you prayed together, maybe even walked through the hardest seasons of life together. You knew each other's kids' names, you celebrated birthdays, you showed up at the hospital rooms, and at graduations, and during divorces and job losses. Those memories live in your heart. They shaped who you are. And when the connection changes, when that friendship fades, it leaves a space, an empty place where the person used to be. And you are allowed to grieve that. you're allowed to feel the loss without guilt. You can miss who you were to each other. You can grieve the version of yourself that existed in that friendship. You can feel sad about the future moments you won't share. And you can also, at the very same time, bless where they are now. You can release them with love. You can pray for their good and trust that God has a purpose in their distance. Both things can coexist, grief and release, sadness and acceptance, missing them and letting them go. Ecclesiastes 3:1 again reminds us, to everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. That includes a season of grieving friendships. The season is valid, it's holy even, because every friendship that mattered leaves a mark, and honoring that mark, acknowledging what was and is part of how we heal and move forward. Sometimes I think we cling to friendships past their season because we're afraid that letting go means we're losing the good memories, afraid that if we release the relationship, we're somehow saying it didn't matter. But that's not true. You can carry the lessons without holding on to the friendship. You can remember the good times without needing the friendship to continue. You can honor what was without trying to force what's no longer there. In fact, sometimes holding on too tightly is what creates the bitterness and resentment, because you're trying to keep alive something that's already changed, and that creates disappointment, frustration, hurt. But when you let go with grace, when you bless what was and release what is, you create space for something new. New friendships, new connections, new relationships that fit who you're becoming now, not who you were then. And here's something I've learned: God wastes nothing. Even the friendships that end too soon, even the ones that hurt when they fade, even the ones you wish had lasted forever, He uses all of it. The lessons you learned, the ways you grew, the parts of yourself that were shaped by that connection. None of it is wasted. So you can let go without bitterness, you can release without resentment, and you can trust that what was meant to stay will stay, and what was meant to go has served its purpose. And that, my friend, is how we grieve well. With honesty and with grace, with trust that God was still writing the story, even in the endings. All right, this next part might be a little uncomfortable for some of you, but I think it needs to be said. Sometimes friendships change not because of conflict or distance or life circumstances. Sometimes they change because of growth. You're not the same woman you were 10 years ago. You're not even the same woman you were 5 years ago. You've healed from things you've thought you'd never survive. You've changed your values. You've deepened your faith. You've set some boundaries. You've learned what peace feels like, and you're not willing to sacrifice it anymore. And maybe the people you used to connect with aren't walking in the same direction. Maybe they're still operating from the same mindset that they had years ago. Maybe they haven't done the inner work. Maybe their conversations still revolve around gossip or negativity or drama. And you realize that doesn't fit anymore. Not because they're bad people, but because you're growing in a different direction. And here's what I want you to hear. That's okay. Growth will always create distance from what no longer aligns. That's not mean. That's not even selfish. That's not you thinking you're better than anyone else. That's wisdom. Proverbs 13 verse 20 says this: "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." Now that might sound harsh, but it's not an insult, it's an invitation. It's an invitation to be intentional about who you surround yourself with, to pay attention to who's influencing you, to recognize that the people in your inner circle shape who you are becoming. If your faith is growing deeper, your circle might get smaller, because not everyone wants to go deep. Some people prefer to stay at the surface. If your peace matters more than gossip, some conversations will naturally end, because you're no longer available for drama. If you're choosing healing, some relationships will resist that version of you because your growth makes them uncomfortable. It highlights the work they aren't doing. And you know what? That's not rejection, that's redirection. God doesn't remove people from your life to punish you. He removes them to protect your progress. He knows that certain relationships will hold you back, that certain connections will drain you, that certain friendships will keep you stuck in old patterns instead of moving forward into new ones. So when you feel that pull, that sense that a friendship isn't serving you anymore, don't ignore it. Don't override it because you feel guilty. Don't force yourself to stay in a relationship that's hindering your growth just because you have history. Now, I'm not saying you should just ghost people or be harsh or burn bridges unnecessarily. What I am saying is pray first. Before you make any decisions, bring it to God. Ask, Lord, is the relationship still serving your purpose in my life? Am I meant to stay or am I meant to create some distance? And then listen, really listen. And if you feel peace about creating space, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's sad, trust that. Trust that God is making room for something or someone better suited for who you're becoming. And if the friendship does fade because of your growth, bless them anyway. Pray for them. Release them. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to have a big conversation. Sometimes you just quietly create distance and trust that God is repositioning both of you for your next chapter. Because here's the truth. The right people for this season of your life will celebrate your growth, not resent it. They'll cheer you on, not hold you back. They'll meet you where you are, not where you used to be. And when you find those people, hold on to them, nurture those connections, because they are a gift. Okay, so we've talked about letting go, we've talked about grief and growth and creating distance when needed. But what about the other side? What about building new connections? Because I think one of the lies we believe in midlife is this: deep friendships only happen when you're young. The window has closed. It's too late to make new friends. But that's simply not true. The truth is, some of your most meaningful relationships may still be ahead of you. In fact, midlife can actually be the perfect time for authentic friendships because you know who you are now. You know what drains you and you know what feels life-giving. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're not performing. You're not pretending to be someone you're not just to fit in. You're comfortable in your own skin, and that clarity, that self-awareness is the perfect soil for a real connection to grow. Now, I'll be honest, making new friends in midlife takes effort. It's not like college where you're thrown together in dorms and classes and everyone's the same age and stage of life. In midlife, everyone's busy. Everyone has their own established circles, and it can feel really vulnerable to put yourself out there. But guess what? You don't need a crowd. You just need a few souls who see you as you and love you right where you are. So where do you start? Well, first, be intentional. Friendships doesn't just happen by accident in midlife. You have to create opportunities or connections. Join a Bible study. Volunteer somewhere that aligns with your values. Maybe take a class or show up at church events. Put yourself in spaces where you'll meet people who share your interests or your faith. Second, be the one to reach out first. Don't wait for someone else to make the first move. Ask someone for coffee. Invite a neighbor over. Send that text. Make the effort. Yes, it's vulnerable. Yes, you might get rejected, but you might also make a friend. And isn't that worth the risk? And third, be patient. Good friendships, like gardens, take time. You can't rush depth. You can't force connection. But when you meet people who feel safe, curious, and kind, nurture those connections slowly. Invest in them. Show up consistently. Let trust build over time. And listen, I know some of you are thinking, But what if they don't like me? What if I'm too much or not enough? What if I'm awkward or say the wrong thing? Friends, the right people will like you. The right people will appreciate your authenticity. The right people will see your quirks and think, yes, she's my people. And the ones who don't, they weren't meant for your circle anyway. So take the risk. Step out. Be brave enough to show up as yourself. Because somewhere out there, there's another woman who's also wondering if it's too late to make new friends, who's also feeling lonely in her own life transitions, who's also looking for someone who gets it. And when you two find each other, it'll be worth every awkward first conversation, every vulnerable reach out, every time you almost talked yourself out of trying. Because real friendship, the kind that sees you and stays, is one of God's greatest gifts, and it's never too late to receive it. So before we close, I want to talk about the one friend who never drifts, never changes, and never leaves. Because even in seasons when the circle feels small, or the phone stays silent, or you're grieving friendships that have ended, you are never truly without companionship. Proverbs 18:24 says this: "There is a friend who sticks closer than a brother." That friend is Jesus. He never ghosts you. He never outgrows you. He never gets too busy or too distracted or too far ahead to remember you. When the circle feels small, he's still there. When you're lonely, he's listening. When you're grieving a friendship that ended, he's grieving with you. And when you're nervous about putting yourself out there and making new connections, he's right there cheering you on. He listens when you vent, even when you're venting about the same thing for the 100th time. Don't we, though? He comforts when you cry. He stays when everyone else walks away. And here's what I've come to believe. Sometimes God allows friendships to fade so we can learn to depend on Him first. Not people, not approval, not validation from others, but His presence, His love, and His unwavering friendship. Because when you build your life from that foundation, when your primary source of connection is with God, the friendships that come next are rooted in peace, not pressure. You're not desperately clinging to people because you need them to complete you. You're inviting them into a life that's already full because God has filled it. You're not looking for someone who's to save you or fix you or validate you. You're looking for companions to walk alongside you in the journey God has sent you on. And that changes everything. It means you can let friendships breathe. You can give people space to be imperfect. You can release the ones that no longer fit without destroying you. Because your identity isn't wrapped up in who's in your circle. Your worth isn't determined by how many friends you have. Your identity is in Christ. Your worth is established by Him, and that foundation is unshakable. So yes, seek friendship, invest in relationships, be vulnerable and open to new connections. But never forget, even if every earthly friend walked away, you would still have the most faithful friend of all. The one who knows you fully and loves you completely. The one who will never leave you or forsake you. The one who sticks closer than a brother. And that friend is the friendship that changes everything. Okay, so today's challenge is kind of something practical to do this week. So I want you to take some time, maybe with your journal, maybe just in quiet reflection, and think about your current friendships. Ask yourself these questions. Which relationships bring me peace? Which ones energize me, encourage me, and make me feel seen and loved? Which ones feel heavy or forced? Which ones leave you drained, anxious, or like you're performing instead of just being? Which ones might God be asking you to release? Not with bitterness or drama, but with grace and blessing. And which ones might He be asking you to renew or invest in more deeply? And then write down one prayer, just one simple prayer. Lord, Help me bless what was, embrace what is, and trust you with what's next. It's okay to miss people. It's okay to let go. It's okay to grieve. Just don't forget to make room, because new connections often enter once your hands are free. Okay, before we close, I want to share a reflection from the 30-day healing journey. This is a devotional I created to help you have intimate conversations with God, the kind that heal, transform, and deepen your relationships with Him. I'll be walking through each day here on the podcast so you can experience the full journey, but if you want the journal through these prompts and really go deeper, you can grab your copy at thegracefulgrowth.com. Okay, today's reflection is day 17, Seeking Peace. If you have ever experienced God's peace, you will know how truly amazing it is. It's a feeling of joy in knowing. Pray that the Holy Spirit fills you with peace and let God take the reins. This peace comes from building a relationship with God, trusting Him, and always seeking His guidance. We can't control what happens in our lives, but seeking God's peace will help you see it through a positive light and allow you to rest in knowing that He is in control. Today's verse is from John 14, verse 27. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. And here's your prayer. God, I seek your peace, a peace that surpasses all understanding. Help me find stillness in you. So without thinking, just kind of write down your first thoughts after you say that. Then take some time with the following. Find a quiet spot and sit in stillness for about 5 or 10 minutes. Ask the Holy Spirit to show you what this peace feels like and how you can walk into this peace every day. Listen and write down anything you experience during this quiet time. And then write down what peace looks like to you and how you can cultivate it in your daily life. So that's it. Use these reflections to set aside some time this week for an intimate conversation with God. Okay, friends, relationships are one of the ways God refines us. Every friendship, past, present, or future, plays a part in shaping who we're becoming. And even the ones that fade, they mattered, they shaped you, they served a purpose. So honor them, grieve them if you need to, but don't let them keep you from the connections that are still to come. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to do a few things. First, download my free Season of Light guide at thegracefulgrowth.com. This December companion will just help you find peace, purpose, and renewal in God's presence over the season. Second, head over to thegracefulgrowth.com and read the full written version of the blog. You can bookmark it, share it, or come back to it whenever you need a reminder. And third, if you're ready for a deeper transformation, download my free 7 Days of Healing guide. It's just a simple devotional journey that will help you start having more intimate conversations. You'll find the links all in the show notes below. And if you know someone who's walking through a friendship shift right now, someone who's grieving a connection that's changed, or wondering if it's too late to make new friends, would you share this episode with them? Sometimes the best way to honor a friendship is by passing along encouragement that brings peace. Thank you so much for watching and being here today, listening, I guess. I know this was a tender topic, but I hope it brought you some comfort, some clarity, and maybe some courage to embrace this season exactly as it is. Until next time, remember, friendships that fade make space for the ones that will last. And through every season, you already have the most beautiful friend of all. Next time, we're talking about when your kids don't need you, but you still need to be needed. Pretty sure this is a huge one for some of us. So until then, take care. I'll talk to you soon, and God bless.